Helpful Hawk Healing, we're freeing human hearts. And today we are soaring through the subject of complaining. I was an avid complainer. I would say I was highly skilled at it. Not only am I very literate, I was also very much into the art of complaining. And so that led to certain problems. I was ungrateful, I was hateful, I was undeserving. And while these things were taught to me, that I should hate myself and that I was undeserving of love, that doesn't excuse the fact that I never ever skipped a reason for complaining. If there was a reason to complain, I could find it. Well, and what did I have to be grateful for anyway? If I was so undeserving of love, what could I possibly be grateful for? One day, a now former acquaintance said, "Stop complaining. You can't change it, and everybody's tired of hearing your crap." So I took this to heart, and I started concentrating on the one thing I could control: me. Now, when we complain, is there a reason for it? Is there a proper outlet? A frustrating situation should be taken care of in some way, but is there perhaps a better way? Now, I understood the reason that I was told these things and taught these things and could see behind all of the situations. The reason this person told me to stop complaining was so that then they had room to complain even worse than me. And I still let go of complaining. Mostly. I mean, we're human. We're going to complain. There's going to be things that arise. No matter what. So, the main thing that we have to look at with complaining, though, is that complaining keeps us focused on the problem. It keeps us right in the middle of it. For years and years and years, and in fact, most of what I was complaining about that the friend told me to shut up about was the ex-wife. Complaining about the wife, and then subsequently, as I got out of the house, the ex-wife. And this keeps us focused on the situation that's in existence, but it also keeps us focused on what's out of our control. And oftentimes, some of the things that we complain the loudest about are things that are completely out of our control. And while the problem may contain the answer, if we're busy complaining, we aren't going to be able to hear the answer. If our inner being gives us one, or if we're all sitting and discussing a situation and everybody's complaining, we're not going to be able to hear the answer when it comes up. Not only that, but we all have the right to express our frustration. But the way that most people are doing it nowadays, and I was doing it too, was and is just reminiscent of a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum, not having words enough to be able to completely express the problem and never be able to let it go. So and so took the ball, so and so took the ball, so and so took the ball. So while we have a right to do it, and we do have a right to express our frustration, once it's been expressed, let it go. Constantly complaining about government issues or cultural issues, societal issues, things that are truly out of our control, unless we're working actively to change them, there's no point in complaining about it. I've stopped complaining so much about the government for the simple reason that, hey, you know what? I'm one person and I really can't do that much to change it. And with the way things are going, it doesn't make any difference whether we're working to change it or not. It's the owners of the government are not going to allow it to be changed. Not in the ways we want. Sometimes we do have to let someone know that they've crossed a boundary and are not holding to their agreements. And we have to let them know in a very, sometimes rather forceful way, hey, you don't get to do that. However, there are limits to this. If we have to remind them more than twice, we need to sit them down and have a very serious talk. Hey, this is a situation. Either it's going to change or we're going to change. With the former associate, I said, don't touch me. Stop touching me. Stop hitting me. I finally ended up saying many different things about, you don't get to touch me that way, different things. Well, I don't care. I don't mean blah, blah, blah. I'm not, like, I don't care what you mean. I said, don't do it. So finally I just said, okay, there's too many things there's too many strikes in too many areas. And you don't get to be around me. And not only are you striking me, but you've also threatened my life 3 times. I've never allowed people to be friends with me past the point of threatening my life once. And all I got was, I'm sorry. Well, first off, that's not an apology. That's a selfish statement of being. And I don't want an apology. I want behavior change. To give critical analysis is not a complaint. It's an objective view of a person's subjective behavior. And this can be done kindly. It may not be appreciated as much as other things are, but you can point out a person's flaws in a kind manner. Start with the positives, and hopefully there are some, and then cover the negatives and the required actions to come to an agreement, and then move back to the positives, pointing out how the positives can be used to improve the negatives. This is a standard management technique. This is a standard upper management technique, especially. And I learned this technique in art school, believe it or not, because we would go through critique. And I was specifically in commercial and graphic design, where here are the objectives that you're supposed to accomplish. Where the objectives accomplished is the graphic well done, all these little things. I got a little bit of, I got a lot of complaints that I wasn't doing it right. And I said, well, according to the parameters I've been given, these are, it's perfectly within the parameters, is it not? I was being a little more fine artsy. And they were like, well, but this is more fine art. I said, well, then make the parameters a little more designed towards making sure people know that this is for a graphic design. If you should say, do this, and it's rather vague, be a little more specific. And so I learned through different teachers. These are the positive things. These are the definitely negative things. Now, what you did well over here, you could have done these things better. And I've had it happen to me through management too. And there are ways to complain constructively, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If we spend all of our time complaining, though, it's not constructive. It's not critiquing. It's just critical. It's very painful. To complain about things that are completely out of our control or sphere of influence is a waste of breath and time. And unless we're working towards a workable solution or have a workable solution, there's no point in it. No point in it at all. Stopping complaining changes our body chemistry completely. Our body's organs are constantly sending messages to the brain. Every cell in the body sends messages to the brain. And the brain is a big chemical factory that sends chemicals back. And so you've got 40 trillion cells sending messages to the brain. Specific organ cells are sending messages to the brain for specific reasons. And they get used to these things called neuropeptides. So when you're complaining, you're obviously not in a good mood, and these chemicals are getting released constantly into the body. And the body gets used to it. And like any chemical, the body wants what the body wants. It's when we work to stop complaining and work to elevate our mood and elevate our consciousness that then the messages are set up and the cascade becomes a different chemical. If we're constantly complaining and constantly keeping ourselves down and constantly keeping ourselves in a tizit, that causes illness, physical illness. It's been proven time and again. Changing our body chemistry contributes to our overall well-being through wellness. A lot of what I noticed when I took antidepressants was that in some ways I did feel better. But mainly, what made me feel better was counting to 10 again and again and again. And on Prozac, that was the main effect, was that I could count to 10 again and again and again. The one that I really liked was Wellbutrin, or Zyban. And unfortunately, I started having, it would feel like somebody hit me in the head with an icy hammer. I don't know how to explain that. And it would cascade down. just this screaming, hot, cold situation. And I checked into it. I said, this is normal. And I put the symptom into Google, and everything came up with pre-seizure. And several of the top 3 things said Zyban. So I cut my dose in half and then worked myself off of it. I really liked the effect of that drug. It didn't have any sexual side effects for me. It gave me a general sense of well-being, a general sense of comfort. I was fun to be around. People noticed. Unfortunately, I'm not going to trade fun to be around for having seizures. And I'm not sure that I didn't have 1 or 2. But I was drinking a lot at the time, and I was smoking a lot of pot. So I stopped those, and it still happened. It still gave me the effect. And so I said, well, this is not worth all of this. So I let it go. Now then, I found out that meditation over medication. I don't miss the drinking. I don't miss the pot. I don't miss it. Meditation over medication. I'm a much calmer person. I'm much more centered. I'm a lot more fun to be around. I'm not constantly making jokes at others' expense, although I can find the humor in just about anything. Usually I'm laughing at myself and my own ridiculousness, which was something that I tried to do before, but I would have to put on an act in order to get there. Now it's just a matter of, well, wasn't that silly? Isn't that funny? Complaining can really have a debilitating effect on our body, but it can also have a completely destructive effect on our mind and the minds of everyone around us. These things being expressed, we are human and we all have frustrations. However, we have to learn not to dwell on them. And one thing about meditation is it brings us into our center, and it holds us in our center long enough that we get used to being in our center, and then we become unshakable. The second agreement of the 5 agreements of the Toltecs is never take anything personally. By learning to do that, that takes away, I'd say 90% or 95% of the reasons we would have to complain in the first place. And that holds us in our center, unshakable. I am enough. I love myself. I am free and unshakable. That's not just a statement to me. Excuse me. That's not just something I say. That's something I mean. It's something I do every day, several times a day. In fact, when I'm at work and there are customers around or something like that, I'll do this. And in my mind, I'm saying it. There might be a certain customer who is consistently rude and frustrating, and to deal with them is difficult. And so as I'm walking up, I'll just gently do this. And as Jeffrey Allen says, the permission rose. And by doing this and becoming unshakable, they can't shake me out of my tree. And believe me, there are some of them that specifically try. The old saying, misery loves company, is a truism because when we complain, others begin to do the same. You ever been someplace, say at a party, and this person over here starts complaining and it goes around the room? Especially amongst old folks. Remember as a kid at Thanksgiving or Christmas, and the older folks would start telling you about their, oh, my knees. It goes around the room. Oh, my hips. It goes around the room. Oh, my hands. Oh, my eyesight. Oh, my blood pressure, this. Oh, my, you know. You would think they were dying right there. So that's where we learn it, for one thing. But it's a consistent and constant thing culturally to be the biggest complainer and to have the greatest complaint and to have the greatest insult to a person who says something about your complaint, or just a better insult anyway. But the thing that I find hilarious are the people who have no reason to complain, and so they complain on behalf of other people. People that are not complaining. I'm going to complain on the part of these people over here that aren't complaining. And it really is hilarious to watch some people. It's like I can't be offended for anything for myself, so I'm going to be offended for them. And so since I'm offended, I'm going to make their complaint for them, even though I haven't been asked to. And one can only imagine what it's like to live in their home. To be their child has got to be very difficult. So complaining constantly, and it's a very societal and cultural thing, is to basically hold ourselves away from the answer to our very problems. Because we're so busy, as I said, we're so busy complaining when our inner being or the greater being gives us the answer. We can't hear it because we're too busy complaining. If I'm complaining about something you're doing, and you're consistently doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, and I'm consistently complaining, one, we need to talk about, hey, you need to stop doing that. And two, we need to talk about my complaint, because all it's doing is holding us both in the vicious cycle. We both need to change. It's an incredible thing when we stop complaining, when we change our viewpoint from having a complaint. And I'm not saying restraint over complaint. I'm saying look for the good in every situation. And then you won't have anything to complain about. Unless someone is physically attacking you, let them say whatever the heck they want. Now, I also get it. There are things people are going to do that are frustrating, that are annoying. And yes, say something about it and let it go. If you're in a marriage or partnership or even friendship, and there's something the other person is constantly doing, make sure that you're not constantly doing things that are frustrating them and annoying them. And if they're constantly doing something that frustrates or annoys you, and you truly cannot live your life comfortably with that thing going on, say, hey, we need to talk. But if all you're doing is nag, 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 not only are people going to dislike you, but it's showing how much you dislike yourself. Usually when we complain about something, It's something we're not wanting to admit about ourselves anyway. It's something we're not wanting to see within ourselves that we're doing, or perhaps even worse. So I encourage you, next time you get ready to complain about something, look at it objectively and say, is this worth complaining about? Does it need to be complained about? Is this something that is out of my control, or is this something in my control? Because there are certain criteria, and if what you're getting ready to complain about doesn't meet those criteria, then why complain about it? Why complain about it? All you're doing is destroying yourself and destroying a mood that you can decide to be happy in. Happiness is the result of a decision. And you're destroying everybody else's happiness. If we all gave up complaining for one whole day, if we all gave up taking things personally from other people for one whole day, imagine where we would be. Even just an hour. But for one whole day, if the whole of humanity stopped taking things personally, stop holding other people hostage to our emotions, and stop complaining about what other people are doing, we did that for one whole day. Imagine where this world would be. So I suggest 10,000 times a day repeating to yourself, I am enough, I love myself, I am free and unshakable. And as long as you stay in that unshakable center, no matter what's done, unless it's physically done to your body, and even then, realizing that you aren't your body, you're the infinite spiritual being that inhabits it, it's contagious. Every single mood is contagious. So the more you laugh at yourself, and the more you laugh at the things that you can't control, the more other people laugh with you. It's an incredible place to live when you can let go of anything that's being said to or about you, regardless of who's saying it, and regardless of whether it's true or not. It doesn't make any difference how they're saying it. Never take it personally, and you'll never have any reason to complain. Thank you for joining me here on our Soaring Saturday sessions. This is Hawk from Helpful Hawk Healing, where we're freeing human hearts. I love myself. I am enough. I am free and unshakable. And I love you too. Namaskar.